Hello there, I am an Archotech, but you could probably already tell, or maybe you've already met me before. Howdy, either way. Let me introduce you to my friends. This is Brian. She is my medical android. This is my pet and best friend, Barry the Bluebird. And these are my children. Kind of. Not really. They're actually all carbon copy clones of me who are about half my age. But I have stepped up as their papa. And together with my clone army, we are rebuilding an Archotech paradise here in the heavens. Terraforming an asteroid to become our base of operations, our cloning facility, our growing zone, and most importantly, our own little slice of heaven for our home. But the only thing is, this is only one asteroid. Orbiting this vac world are many, which means not only do we have a lot of work to do, but we have a lot of different asteroids to terraform and to claim as our homes. That being said, this raises the question, how do we get to all of them? I'm glad you asked. Last episode, we found ourselves a grav engine crashed on the planet. And we are going to be using that engine to go about building our own Archotech ship. Now, I will say, in the previous episodes of Terraforming the Asteroid and whatnot, we have been going for a very beautiful, natural feeling with grass and trees and just every little bit and bob of nature we could cram in. However, for our ship, we are going with a proper Archotech technology design. In a nice spherical shape with an engine on each side, an advanced GravTech engine, I might add, with a little bit of Archotech flair, allowing us to move in any direction that we so choose with ease. Quite sophisticated and high-tech, of course. Not only will we be traveling around in this ship, but we are going to be using it specifically to terraform. You could think of it as a ship to seed the world, the galaxy, asteroids, and anything else we so choose, bringing life to dead places. And with that being said, if you guys want to give it a name, be sure to let me know. It's something of a Noah's Ark kind of thing, so something along those lines if you like, but whatever you so choose. We were sure to make sure that the ship would have a gigantic capacity, not only to contain our entire army, and myself of course, but as well as any other creatures that we may need to board it and storage and things like that. Speaking of which, we have a lot of devices that we need to build if we actually plan on terraforming these places, and we're going to be storing them on the ship. We're going to be building some atmospheric projectors, but these are not like the traditional ones that we've seen throughout this series thus far. Using my superior Archotech intelligence, I've replaced the component inside these of grav cores with some Archotech fragments. That way we don't have to go searching for grav cores, and they'll be much easier to create for us as we have plenty of replicators already making fragments for us. Essentially, the crux of what I'm getting at here is that with enough time for us to replicate more fragments and just a bit more time to go about installing these on the ship and traveling with our new vessel along with all of these projectors, we could, theoretically, terraform the entire universe. Again though, baby steps first and foremost. We need to go about terraforming all the natural satellites in orbit here. But first, before we depart, I must say my goodbyes to Barry. Barry, Papa loves you. No, Barry, I promise I won't take that long this time, for real. Yes, Pinky, swear you don't even have pinkies. Just make sure you're taking good care of Papa's armor, okay? Alrighty then, we are off on our first departure. I was very excited to show you the animation taking off for our new ship, but unfortunately for some reason it was bugged and it just showed me the ship heading to the next asteroid. But you do get this cool shot of it landing, which also allows you to see our dynamic engine setup, allowing us to move any which way. Ah, finally, a whole new world. And by world, of course, I mean a barren rock with no life at all. Well, actually, there was some life, it looks like. It seems that some ancient person had the exact same idea that we did, as there's already an atmospheric projector here, surrounded by Archotech power cells. Although quite small and primitive put together, I would say that these were ancient humans commandeering our technology. Either way, it'll come in quite handy. Let's see. Yep, all we gotta do is just, charge it right up. There we go. We are good. Though we had properly packed our own projectors, this human-made one still seems to function quite well at full power and actually already encompasses a decent-sized chunk of the asteroid. With that, adding in a few more of our own, we should be able to encompass the entire thing, taking those very first crucial steps of turning this rock house into a rock home, slowly. Very slowly, over time. After several days, we finally got some decent growth of not only our soil, but also some vegetation, with that being grass and, some grass. Typical for the human design of the projectors, but on the opposite side of the asteroid, with the ones that we use fragments instead of grav cores, I noticed something special was growing. We had a couple of Archean trees. It would seem that using our own ancient technology instead of grav cores has caused them to sprout, giving this asteroid not only a beautiful terraformed soil and other vegetation, but adding in our own godlike technological flair. And also, of course, the trees help us out with terraforming, making the process much faster and much smoother. There was one tiny little issue, though. The terraforming process, as mentioned several times, takes a very long time. Me, an ancient godlike being, I didn't mind. My clones, on the other hand, were getting a bit restless, were wrestling with one another. I was afraid that their combat might destroy the entire place. I think it's time we move on. Not to worry though, as I'm leaving a team of 5 clones behind to ensure the growth and life of this place is consistent and on track and on pace with the other asteroids that will be terraforming, ensuring its ample care to them, the new gods of this asteroid, one might even say. Tribespeople would probably look at this as some form of religious text in a few million years. Enough about that though, let us continue our seeding efforts as we move on to our next barren place. Now some of you might be wondering how we're doing this terraforming. Sure, we're using the projectors that we created to make an atmosphere around these asteroids, but how are we keeping them powered 24/7? Well, I'm glad you asked, because at the center, the very heart of every one of these asteroid worlds, we are going to be building a core to go about powering it. Using an ancient design and blueprint of Archotech power cells that some of you might be familiar with. They generate power through technology and means that would be beyond your comprehension, I'm afraid. But thanks to their resistance and the atmosphere around these places now, they are extremely resistant to solar flares, and there's no need for batteries since they're always generating power. And the best part? They're completely free of charge. Well, kinda. We do have to wait for our replicators to create fragments in masses that we can use to construct them, but other than that, free of charge. Once the power cells are in place, the rest is simple. We just set up all of our atmospheric projectors encompassing the entire atmosphere, as you've seen several times over, and then we simply sit back and wait. Now, I realize it would be incredibly boring and also impractical for every asteroid to be a temperate forest biome, so that's why we're going to be doing different biomes. This one in particular is actually going to be a desert, with very few little areas of actual soil where vegetation could grow, mostly being sand, of course. And the projectors of this asteroid are actually using a much higher amount of power, and the reason being for that is because they're generating much more heat. With the average temperature of this asteroid being 122 degrees Fahrenheit, I don't know what that is for the rest of the world, but for the other asteroids we've built thus far being temperate forests, they're around about 70 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. You see what I'm saying, with the reason they're using more power. We have been here for a very, very long time though, so how about we check back in on our previous asteroid? Oh yeah, now we're talking a great big beautiful green jewel in orbit, with what appears to be lush and vibrant vegetation life around every single corner. That was extremely quick. I'm sure we owe a lot of it to the rich soil created by our Archean trees as well. Not to get all biblical and all that, I know I mentioned Noah's Ark earlier with the ship, but it is hard not to make comparisons to these beautiful places like this and like Eden and stuff like that with this almost godlike just beauty to these asteroids terraformed. Just in my opinion, I genuinely love how they look, and I don't know, it gives me a nice, cozy, comfortable feeling. But you know what doesn't? Humans. Filthy humans. Especially the ones that have come to disgrace our lovely main asteroid base with their disgusting feet, corrupting the land itself with their chaotic presence. The issue here is none of our clones are here to protect us. Barry rushed inside to hide away from the attackers, finding a safe spot to bunker down, all while our loyal Brian would heed the call. She wouldn't be able to fit inside the armor, but our Devastator rifle fit her hand quite nicely. Such ungrateful, blasphemous creatures. You've come to meet your creator. Very well. Meet him then. I bet you didn't know that Brian was such a cold-ass motherfucker. Yeah, neither did I. Indeed, though, it would seem that he has stepped up to the plate to not only be the caretaker of our main asteroid in our absence, but also its defender. Such a sweet young lass. We are going to be using all those corpses for power, by the way. So I suppose it wasn't all bad. I mean, sure, they probably scared Barry a little bit, but now they're all in hell. Checking back in on our second new asteroid that we've been terraforming, our desert biome asteroid. It is now complete for the most part, except for a few areas here and there, and we could do with a bit more vegetation. So, of course, I am going to be leaving behind yet another team of 5 of my clones to be its caretakers, protectors, and its guards, ruling over it however they see fit. And also however I see fit. That being said, we'll be moving on to our third and final asteroid, only for this episode, of course. If you folks want to see me continue terraforming these asteroids, and inevitably the planet as a whole, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below, and be sure to continue liking the videos. It really does let me know. For realsies. Obviously, to start us off, we are digging to the core of the asteroid, where we are once again going to be building our power source. We build these in the core as well, I forgot to mention earlier. That way they're protected from any orbital debris and also, of course, attacks. Because without the power core in the middle, if these were to be destroyed, there would be no more life on the asteroid, nor an atmosphere. And as you could probably guess, the atmosphere is pretty darn important for terraforming. That's actually the bread and butter, the whole point, the backbone, if you will. As you can see, this is much of the same, and it does take a very long time. You've seen me terraform these over and over. Let's spice it up a bit. I know, perhaps you'd like to see how I clean up these ancient mining charges. Well, I just kind of stack them up and then, I shoot them. That's about it. You're right, that's boring. How about I show you how we get rid of the ancient mechanoid chunks? We just kind of shoot them. I see the problem here. Well, I understand that you fine folks in the audience are not an Archotech like we here in my clones, and you don't have all the time in the universe, so how about I just speed things up for you? From an old, cold, gray rock with no grass at all to a gray, brownish-looking rock with a little bit of grass. This particular asteroid is going to be one with a glow forest biome, but there's one little issue with that. As you probably could guess, the glow forest never has any sunlight. This asteroid has a lot, and that means that all the vegetation and fungi is dying. Not to worry though, we didn't come all this way and work our asses off just to watch our creations die off and putter out like the last gleaming star in the universe. We're gonna build a roof over top of all of it, that way they don't have to look at the sun. You're welcome, mushrooms. And of course, to get us that authentic glow forest effect, we're also building some large smoke vents that are going to be pumping this type of acidic smoke and ash into the atmosphere, and thus clouding up the skies even more so, just like you'd find on any planet with this type of biome. Truly now an authentic biome for all the biofluorescent fungi, as well as other different types of life to grow, and not only grow, but to thrive as well. This biome is almost definitely the most sophisticated and complex that we've created thus far, a true testament to how far we've come, but also just a small stepping stone in the much larger path of terraforming the entire planet, of course. Which also brings me to my next point. We don't just want to create these paradises in the heavens for no reason. We want to populate them and turn them into true paradises for some of the Archotech's less homicidal creations, sanctuaries for the more benign and docile beautiful creatures of the universe, like different animals, passive animals that is, not humans. And in doing so, that only increases the fact that our asteroids are becoming smaller ingredients for a much larger terraforming project planet-side, taking the vegetation, the soil, the animals that we're building up here down to the surface eventually, to terraform everything. You've probably already guessed that that's what I'm trying to do, but just in case I didn't make it clear enough, we are basically building large puzzle pieces in the sky to put together a big puzzle on the planet. Before we go out to find this wildlife to seed our puzzle pieces, though, we are going to be leaving behind yet another clone team that will live here and serve as its gods, protectors, yada yada. You already know the drill by this point. And then we set out for our animals. But you might be saying, Rat Papa, where are you going to find animals? This is a vac world. As you've already said, there's nothing on the surface but death and decay. Well, you're right, my friends. But these orbital traders in, well, orbit tend to sell animals quite frequently. I bet they could help us out with that. Just one little issue. I didn't bring any money with me. Oh, shoot. I guess we'll just have to save all these animals and take them by force. We broke open their doors and started going room to room, but luckily they would come to us, making a great big strawberry jam pie right in the hallway. Then, now that they're all dead, I suppose it's time that we saved some animals. We blasted and obliterated our way through the station, and at first I thought, well, we might have to go to a different one. These folks clearly don't have animals, until I finally found some. Yes, come, you beautiful creatures, come, let us get aboard the ship. They were making their way there, and I was so surprised they were this intelligent. It turns out they were just really scared, and they ran out the airlock. We're gonna need to rescue them before they die. And so we would. At least most of them. Unfortunately, some of them may or may not have suffocated. But not really much we could do about that, I'm afraid. We didn't put them there in the first place, so I blame the filthy humans. Besides, we are the saviors of these beautiful creatures, bringing them to their new home. The beavers shall have lush, large trees to consume, and the deer will have more berries and grass than any deer could ever hope to have, all without the threat of predators. No longer will you be oppressed and forced to live in small steel cages, my friends. You are the Lord's creatures, and you shall be treated as such. The deer and beavers shall live here on the first asteroid that we terraformed this episode, with it being our beautiful temperate forest, vibrant and full of food. Moving right along, we're going to be bringing our bullfrogs to our Desert Asteroid biome. I think they'll find it much more comfortable here, having the sun helping them process calcium and make vitamin C inside their bodies, instead of the ashy ashy and dusty glow forest without any light. They too will have plenty of food, with it mostly being some agave, I suppose if things get really bad for them, but a diet of some small insects inside the sandy soil. Last but not least, back at our main asteroid that we've been living on, we are going to have a crow sanctuary. Really not just for crows, as we're going to have all avians here, but since they're currently some of the only ones we have, a crow sanctuary. As well as Barry, of course, who appears to be making some friends. The little lass was tickled plum pink to finally have some friends that weren't godlike Archotech creatures and kinda looked like her. I'm happy for her. Now you might be saying, you've got all these asteroids with different biomes that you're using as animal sanctuaries, but what about the Glow Forest asteroid? You haven't put any animals there. No. And we don't plan on it either. For one, as I previously touched on, I kinda think it would be cruel to put animals here, because there's no sunlight and all they'd really have to eat is fungi and maybe some of the grass, I suppose, or the psychedelic mushrooms, but that wouldn't be humane. So we're actually going to be using it for a more industrial purpose. We're going to be mining out a large section of the asteroid to turn into a great big workshop. Specifically, this workshop is going to be used for storage. But what are we going to be storing here, and what are we going to be working on here? We are going to be filling this place chock full to the absolute brim with medium and large replicators. The reason that we're doing this is because we need a hub, a factory, somewhere to produce Archotech fragments and Archotech masses. And I apologize, I know I'm always saying the word Archotech throughout these videos, and specifically in this one a lot more than usual, but the masses and the fragments are the two main building blocks and resources that we are using to build Archotech. From lights to heaters to other different types of technology that we're putting on these asteroids and inside these bases that I haven't really went over in detail. The heaters are helping keep them warm, and especially on the inside of the asteroid bases, as well as the lights keeping everything lit and bright for our creatures and for our people. The small and medium-sized replicators actually create the fragment, which is probably the most common resource that we're actually using to create things, and then the larger ones create the masses, a little bit less common, but also still needed and necessary. Again, not to come up with some Archotech religion mumbo-jumbo for tribes people, but imagine you're a tribes person on the planet and you need it simplified for you. You could think of this as where your gods store their building blocks of the universe, protons, neutrons, stuff like that, but of course in this case we know that it's just Archotech fragments and masses. Ensuring that we have an efficient and pretty speedy production of these two things is also going to be absolutely crucial for eventually terraforming the planet as a whole. I know that's what we're kind of building up to here, and I've talked about it a lot, but it takes a lot, and I really do mean a lot, of prep work to terraform a planet. You've seen how long it takes us to do one asteroid after all, and we are getting pretty close to being able to accomplish that goal, my friends. But I suppose that'll be next time. See you later.